Hello everyone, welcome. My name is Bree Johnson from the Wellness Zone, and today I'll be presenting what's what on the keto diet. I know there's a lot of information out there. This is kind of a hot topic in the nutrition world right now, and so this presentation is intended for educational purposes only and is not meant to be interpreted as medical advice. Please make sure to comment below this post just to let us know that you listened, and that way I can send you the handout that goes along with this information. Let's start with a test of your knowledge. True or false? The keto diet is designed to reduce foods high in ketones, since ketones are linked to weight gain. The answer is false. Ketones are not something you eat. They're actually produced by the body when it's burning certain fuels, and we'll talk about that in just a moment. The ketogenic or keto diet is not new and was not originally created for weight loss. It's actually been around for about a century, and it was used to treat epilepsy and control seizures, especially in young children. And it's actually sometimes still used for that today. I'm sure many of you have heard the term macronutrients. And so we'll talk a little bit about that in general before we get into the specifics about the keto diet. So all calories come from one of three places: carbohydrate, protein, and fat. Each of these plays an important role, and most weight loss diets, you'll notice, will modify the proportions of each of these macronutrients. Carbohydrates, or carbs, are broken down into glucose or blood sugar, which serves as the primary energy source for your body and your brain. Carbs are found in fruits, vegetables, grains, legumes, milk, yogurt, but also found in sugars and sweets and sugary drinks. Protein is not a preferred energy source, but it's used for tissue repair and hormones. Sources of protein include plant foods like legumes, nuts, seeds, many soy products, and also in animal foods like eggs, fish, poultry, and meat. And then fat is also an energy source and a key way that the body actually stores energy. Some dietary sources of fat include many meats, oils, nuts, seeds, avocados, etc. So now let's talk about macronutrients as it pertains specifically to the keto diet. So there are different versions of the diet out there, but in general, the keto diet is meant to be very low in carbohydrate, moderate in protein, and high in fat. So as you know, we just kind of talked about that carbs are a primary fuel source for the body's cells, especially in the brain. So in the keto diet, when there is a limited glucose in the diet and the body has depleted stored glucose from the liver and the muscles, it actually burns fat and produces an alternative fuel called ketone bodies, which is where this diet got its name from. Like many popular diets, the keto diet has some elements that are positive and may link to the reasons that people have some success with weight loss. So some of those positives include that it eliminates certain foods with few nutrients that many people tend to overeat, such as foods high in sugars, refined grains, and other snack foods. It also may be high in certain non-starchy vegetables such as leafy greens and cauliflower, which have lots of nutrients and healthy plant chemicals. Additionally, the keto diet may include heart-healthy fats if the person following the diet chooses those healthy fat options like avocados, nuts, seeds, olive oil, and canola oil. Now, there are some downsides to the keto diet. So it is low in foods that do have a variety of health benefits like whole grains, fruits, and some vegetables, beans, and other legumes. It may also be high in saturated fat if the person following the diet chooses fatty meals that include, bacon, sausage, hot dogs, butter, and cheese. Saturated fat can be linked to raising bad cholesterol levels. Additionally, this diet can be risky for people with certain health conditions such as kidney disease, liver disease, osteoporosis, etc. Like we talked about, the diet does eliminate a lot of nutrient-rich carbs, which may increase the risk of nutrient deficiencies. Some versions of the diet may encourage eating foods rich in saturated fats. We kind of mentioned that too. And then it's highly restrictive, and so often difficult and possibly unhealthy to maintain over a long period of time. And there's not really sufficient evidence to determine the long-term safety of following this diet. Like many diets, the keto diet might lead to some weight loss for people, which adds to its appeal. However, when a diet is unsustainable and old habits are resumed, weight gain can be common. And then just another note is that following the keto diet may actually cause a number of side effects, especially early on. So just know that the symptoms listed here are sometimes referred to as the keto flu. You'll probably notice that there are some common threads among different weight loss programs and diets that come and go. And some of those would include that they can have many rules or are very restrictive around what you can or cannot eat and when you can eat. Sometimes they eliminate certain food groups or just certain foods in general. Most of the time they're focused on the short term and maybe not necessarily keeping in mind how the restrictive nature often makes it hard to sustain long term. And a lot of times they promise big results in a short amount of time. So from a weight loss perspective, you can think about the keto diet probably does fit into many of these categories. It would be different if you were someone using the keto diet carefully planned by a dietitian specifically for medical purposes. But thinking about each food trend tends to be built on some truths and certain things that do help people succeed. Instead of following any diet that is focused on the short term, you might consider choosing a sustainable eating pattern that's linked to health benefits. And some of those examples could include Dietary Guidelines for Americans, the Dietary Approaches to Stop Hypertension, or DASH eating pattern, and the Mediterranean diet. In general, these types of eating patterns are rich in fruits and vegetables, whole grains, lean proteins, heart-healthy fats, and low-fat dairy foods, and they're low in added sugars, refined grains, saturated in trans fats, and sodium. These eating patterns have been linked to health benefits in multiple studies, are recommended by national guidelines, and look very different from the keto diet, which in fact has very little long-term research behind it. But regardless, it's important for you to know that there's not really one size fits all approach when it comes to nutrition. Each of you will have different needs and preferences, and the key is for you to create a pattern that you can sustain for the long term. Some of you may have certain health conditions or special dietary needs, and in these cases, it's best for you to work with a registered dietitian nutritionist regarding your unique situation. Overall, the keto diet and many other similar diets can be limiting and restrictive. While they may produce weight loss in the short term, weight regain is likely if it cannot be sustained for the long term. So like we talked about, instead you could consider to find a nutritious eating pattern that works for you and is sustainable for the long term. Choose My Plate is one example. Harvard Healthy Eating Plate or American Institute for Cancer Research New American Plate are a couple other examples. The bottom line is that diets can come and go, but a healthy lifestyle is forever. So I encourage you to focus on positive change and strive to create a healthy relationship with food. Remember that no food should be labeled good or bad, but emphasize the foods that fill your body with the most nutrients and enjoy other foods in moderation from time to time. Remember to consider your personal challenges and adjust based on those. For example, do you tend to choose larger portions of certain foods or drinks? Maybe you could consider trying to slowly cut back. Do you dine out often? Maybe you'll consider ordering a smaller option, sharing with someone, or asking for simple swaps. The last thing I have for you is to consider, what will you do next? Listed on the slide are a few examples, but I encourage you to take a moment and consider what small step you'll take to get you closer to your personal health and wellness goal. Please be sure to let us know if you have any questions. Thank you so much for listening. Be sure to add a comment below if you listened to the presentation so that I can send you the handout.